Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and we got a massive surprise this morning, and it's a pleasant surprise. One of Ripple's on-demand liquidity customers filed an application to file an amicus brief in support of Ripple and their motion for summary judgment. This is not something I would have necessarily ruled out, but it was certainly out of nowhere. I don't think that this was on anyone's radar here. And this is fascinating for so many reasons. First, and this is probably going to be a no-brainer, but they completely rip the SEC's arguments to shreds, and that's interesting enough on its own. But we actually get a glimpse into the thinking of on-demand liquidity, at least, well, in this case, one on-demand liquidity customer, and why they think XRP is fantastic and on-demand liquidity is absolutely amazing. We get to see the reasons that they're doing what they're doing. And I'll tell you, one side effect for me as a result of reading through this is that it just further instilled my confidence in the long-term viability and utility of XRP itself and on-demand liquidity. So you're really going to love this because we don't get typically to hear, especially not in this level of detail, the reasons why Ripple's on-demand liquidity customers are using on-demand liquidity. And I'll tell you this right now, it is not because Ripple's paying them, and they state that right here. They stated in this document that was filed today, they're choosing to use this because it's the best solution available like on the planet. In terms of on-demand, like where the corridors are open, it's the best solution. They articulate why in here, so you're going to absolutely love this. So like kick back, you can kick up your feet, wiggle your toesy wosies, get comfy, maybe pop some poppy corn. It's going to be a slammer. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And so at the time I'm recording this is a very new development. XRP community member and attorney James K. Filan shared this application, I guess as he called it, because they filed an application to file an amicus brief this morning, and attorney Filan shared that on Twitter at 8:28 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I say Central Standard Time because that's the time zone I use. I'm in the United States in the Midwest. As I record this, it is now 12:01 p.m., so it's been a little over 3.5 hours. This thing was 19 pages, and I printed it. Wasn't too bad to get through, actually. 19 pages, not that bad, honestly, because I've gone through like 90-page documents and more. So what I did was what I normally do. I highlighted the parts that I found to be very interesting, made some notes along the way. But I'm telling you, there's not a ton of legal speak in this, so it's actually pretty easy to understand. It's just a pleasure to go through, honestly. It really, truly is. So I'll have some comments along the way, but I mostly want Iremit to kind of speak for themselves here. So there are, this is obviously being a new development, there's only been so much feedback and perspective from the community at this point. I do have some comments from attorney John Deaton as well as attorney Jeremy Hogan that I'll kick off the video with, but as is typically the case when something is this new, there's only going to be so much from the community because people need time to digest this. A lot of people probably haven't even seen this thing yet, so there will probably be additional stuff to talk about in the future on this topic, but there is a ton of information to cover even as is, and I really do think you're going to enjoy this. Let's go ahead and jump in first to what attorney Deaton and Hogan had to say. I'm actually going to start with my tweet because attorney Deaton actually ended up retweeting this. Otherwise, I probably would have left it out. But I tweeted out at 9 a.m. this morning. Pile on, everyone, pile on. Iremit recently expanded their use of on-demand liquidity utilizing XRP as a bridge currency. They're jumping into the lawsuit. There is no way the SEC anticipated this much pushback before suing Ripple and attacking XRP holders. About to dive into this bad boy. Now, Iremit, that may sound familiar. Well, that may be because Iremit was recently in the news. I made a whole video on this, breaking this down, but here you can see this is a press release from Ripple. It's on their official website, and they titled this press release, Iremit expands partnership with Ripple to further leverage on-demand liquidity for treasury management. So Ripple was Iremit was one of Ripple's earlier on-demand liquidity customers. They jumped on board, started using on-demand liquidity in 2019. And then, a little over a week ago, we got this, and I made a video about this going into great detail. about how Iremit, they've had such success with on-demand liquidity that they were actually expanding their adoption of on-demand liquidity. And it was basically within their internal treasuries that are cross-border, because they're not in just one part of the planet. And I'm not going to do a breakdown video of what that means. I made a whole video breaking down exactly what that is and the implications and why it's awesome sauce. But I just wanted to set the table so that you're aware. This is a customer of Ripple's that's been around for a few years, and they're expanding their use of on-demand liquidity and XRP. So Attorney Deaton retweeted my tweet and wrote the following. Matt makes the point that no way did the SEC fully anticipate the level of pushback it would get by filing the case against Ripple and XRP. He is 100, so he used that little, for those of you not looking, use a little 100 emoticon or whatever you'd call it. People use it in place of 100%. I do all the time too. And then Attorney Deaton says, but the absolute truth is that they didn't anticipate or consider any pushback at all, because the lawsuit itself was the weapon. The lawsuit is the security, an investment, time and money, into a common enterprise, a founder/investors working with a regulator, and with an expectation of profit. Delay plus suppressing growth equals time equals profits, relying on efforts of others. SEC enforcement lawyers dragging it out. Yeah, that sounds about right, John. I agree. It's completely ridiculous, but it's true. And then in a separate tweet, Attorney John Deaton had this to say on the topic. He said, the Chamber of Digital Commerce's Amicus brief was not in support of either party, and that is why the SEC did not object. The brief filed today is in support of Ripple's arguments, adding the perspective of an on-demand liquidity user. The SEC will most certainly object. Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. Of course, they object to everything then again. Now, in this case, I suppose, and this is just my lay person opinion, given that I don't have a legal perspective, but presumably, since it is in defense of Ripple's legal argument, it would be harder to get this approved by the judge, because again, the judge has to approve this. If it doesn't approve the application, then this amicus brief goes buyback, goes the way of the dodo, my favorite extinct avian creature. So this document, I'll get to in just a minute here. I just want to cover all the comments here first. You could kind of consider it to be in two parts. There's the initial comments where the attorneys for Iremit are writing to the judge, explaining why this amicus brief that they're filing as an exhibit should be allowed, and then separately, they do include it within one piece. It's just separate from that is the actual amicus brief that they want to be approved. So the whole thing's actually in there. It's just not approved. So we do get to see it. And I'm going to run through the whole thing with you. But in that sense, it's in two separate pieces. I just don't know for sure. I have no idea what the likelihood is of this thing actually getting approved by the judge. I sure as hell hope so, though, because this information is highly useful. Now, I will say, even if not approved, the judge is going to read the thing. So the judge will still, the information, which is important to know, and in a way, it's almost like a crash course on why XRP has utility, she's going to see this. So it's really useful and important regardless, but I'm hoping this thing does get approved, of course. And then there was also this from attorney Jeremy Hogan. He wrote, Iremit Inc. comes out of nowhere and files a motion to submit an amicus brief. This brief is very specific to Iremit and explains to the court how Iremit doesn't care if the price of XRP goes up or not. XRP is just a medium it uses to move value. Very nice / concise brief. So now let's go ahead and dig into this thing. And so I'm going to jump down. I'll try to remember to scroll down for those of you looking at the screen on whatever device you're using, which presumably would be a TV, because I assume most phones be a little bit hard to read some of this stuff, but you do you, girl. So we'll jump down to page. Actually, it is right here. Okay, here. Yep, this is it. Okay, so there's this section titled Interests of Iremit Inc. as Amicus Curiae. And I will tell you up front, like I said, you can kind of consider it to be in two different sections. There's the first part, which is what I'm covering right now, which is explaining to the judge. There's some background, yeah, but explaining why their amicus brief should be approved by the judge. And then we get into the actual amicus brief, which is the exhibit. And there's a little bit of overlap as a result of these two separate things. I'm covering them one after another. I did the best I could to make sure that there's not that much overlap. There'll be a little bit, but it is what it is. Because I need these sentences to flow. I can't just chop it out and then have sentences that are half sentences, so it is what it is. Anyway, so this was titled Interests of Iremit Inc. As Amicus Curiae. And so, look, as I read this, keep in mind, that the SEC is arguing XRP does not have utility. This Ripple customer disagrees, as it is a core component of their business, as you will see as we go through this. So check it out. Founded in 2001, Iremit is a global payment remittance company that is headquartered in the Philippines. It functions as an intermediary that connects senders of money abroad to recipients of that money in the Philippines. Iremit is publicly listed on the Philippine Stock Exchange and serves individuals and businesses around the world. One of the chief mechanisms that Iremit employs to facilitate money transfers is the RippleNet software product. RippleNet, developed by defendant Ripple Labs Inc., allows customers to clear and settle cross-border financial transactions in a variety of ways. One of those ways is through a software product called On-Demand Liquidity, or ODL for short, which uses a virtual currency called XRP. Now, XRP, in turn, runs on the XRP ledger, an open-source technology that can securely record international transactions almost instantaneously. As a major ODL customer, Iremit is interested in the outcome of this lawsuit because of its heavy reliance on XRP and the XRP ledger. Iremit has deep knowledge of these technologies that will aid the court's evaluation of the arguments advanced by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And then I need to go down to bottom of page 2. So let me scroll down here. Yeah, there we go. It's towards the bottom. I'm just covering the bottom of this part. So right here, this sentence right here where I just highlighted that word remit. Iremit is one of many customers of Ripple's ODL technology. It was an early adopter of, next page, ODL in 2019 and continues to use that technology to this day. ODL is useful for Iremit because XRP and the XRP ledger, used by ODL, lower the cost of real-time payments and allow greater customer access to currency markets with a high level of security. So let me just pause here to note, setting aside the legal arguments, does this not instill confidence in you, regarding the long-term viability of XRP? Because I've said many, many times, and I firmly believe this, in order for a cryptocurrency to have long-term viability, it needs to solve just one problem and be adopted to solve that one problem. That's it. If there's one thing, because that represents value, and even if it's just one thing, humans don't tend to throw out something that's actually valuable. Now note, value is different than price. I understand XRP is a price. That's the open market price. When I talk about value, I'm talking about what problems are actually being solved with this thing. You have a customer of Ripple, and you'll see, just if you can stick through the rest of this video, I encourage you to, if you have the time, because some of the better arguments that they have, they come towards, actually, it just happens to, I'm doing it sequentially, but it comes towards the tail end of the entire Amicus curiae brief that they want to submit. And it's powerful. Like you're getting like an inside look at the rationale for why people want to utilize XRP as a bridge currency. And there's no other firm on the planet doing what Ripple is doing in positioning a cryptocurrency as a bridge currency. There isn't even competition in that sense for that particular use case. I mean, you could say, okay, a little bit of stable coins, this or that, but I'm talking about plugging in an XRP as a bridge currency in the legacy financial system. That's different than trying to onboard customers to utilize stable coins. That's, as a means of moving money around the place. That's a very different prospect. Anyway, the attorneys continue. In this lawsuit, the SEC has taken the position that Ripple's distribution of XRP should be considered the trading of an unregistered security, and that XRP distribution functions as an investment contract within the meaning of the Securities Act of 1933, thus subjecting XRP to federal securities regulation. Now, this position badly misunderstands how XRP is actually used. Indeed, the SEC seems to misconstrue important aspects of the large and growing international cryptocurrency industry, seeking to expand its regulatory authority over markets that have no relationship to its traditional scope of authority. Through its proposed amicus brief, Iremit offers the court an important perspective, that of an actual ODL customer that uses XRP. Simply put, market participants like Iremit do not use XRP as an investment of any kind. Rather, it is used as a tool for payment transfers. It is used because of its speed, efficiency, and security, not because of any expectation that its inherent value will increase over time. The way in which Iremit uses ODL, which in turn uses XRP and the XRP ledger, demonstrate that there are not, in fact, securities in any sense of the word. In sum, Iremit's perspective as an ODL customer will aid the court in its consideration of the SEC's lawsuit and defendant's motion for summary judgment. And then they have this little conclusion section. Now, the conclusion here, again, this is just for their portion of the document that's their pitch to the judge for, please let us in. That's effectively what this is. So they've jumped into this thing. Iremit's jumped into this case. It's just a question of whether or not the judge is actually going to approve, their application to file an amicus curiae brief here. But the conclusion reads as follows, and it's very short. For the foregoing reasons, Iremit respectfully requests that the court grant its motion for leave to file, in this case, the amicus curiae brief attached as Exhibit A to the accompanying declaration of Brian Farkas. And Brian Farkas is one of the attorneys that filed this. I'll also note that I did catch this, and you may have as well if you're looking at the screen. I corrected the problem. They wrote quests instead of requests. That is unfortunate, though. And you can see, you're not going to get squiggly lines under that because, if you're in Microsoft Word, because it's not a typo per se, but they meant to use a different word. Respectfully quests? No, respectfully requests, but it is what it is. But regardless, set that aside. This plays perfectly into Ripple's primary argument in their motion for summary judgment, which argues that there is no contract, so there certainly is no investment contract. There can't be an investment contract if there's no contract in the first place. And as a result of all that, the Howie test can't even be applied to these circumstances. Until you show there's a contract, you don't even make it to Howie yet. And that's what Ripple is arguing heavily in their recently filed motion for summary judgment. Now, moving forward here, let me see what page I need to get to. I'm going to flip through the actual paper version of this. I swear by the time this lawsuit's over, there will be no more trees. All of the trees on planet Earth will be gone. I'm a little concerned because, the whole oxygen thing, but not that concerned because this is more important than breathing. So, but seriously, the amount of dead trees. I think, I'm just a simple little moon Lambo doing this stuff. Can you imagine all the stuff that's being printed with law firms? Because, I understand we're in a digital world. I assure you, people are still printing stuff quite a bit. It's just kind of easier to mark up on stuff rather than using a tablet, frankly. I mean, a lot of people think that anyway. I certainly do. That's why I print this stuff up and then I just highlight the relevant portions and make notes. Of course, somebody out here who's 20 years old, there goes that old man moon Lambo, using his paper. All right, so here we go. Background. So now we're getting into this is the actual proposed amicus brief. And there's a minimal amount of overlap in particular at the beginning. I keeping it to as a minimal amount of the video as possible, but then we get into additional really awesome stuff here. So check this out. So this is the background section. The SEC claims that Ripple violated the Securities Act of 1933 because XRP was an investment contract and that the principal reason for anyone to buy XRP was to speculate on it as an investment. Iremit believes that this is false. Iremit and countless similar companies that use XRP for cross-border fund transfer on a daily basis are living proof. Iremit does not use XRP to speculate on it, nor does it consider XRP to be an investment whose inherent value is expected to increase over time. To be sure, sophisticated entities like Iremit are broadly aware of cryptocurrency markets and their potential fluctuations. Those fluctuations might naturally affect the value of XRP on a given day, just as those same forces might affect the values of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and countless other currencies that have emerged in recent years. But these vacillations, whatever they might be, are not why Iremit uses XRP, let alone the principal reason. Rather, as explained above, Iremit uses Ripple's software product called On-Demand Liquidity. Through on-demand liquidity, a business can convert local fiat currency, i.e. a government-issued currency like United States dollars, into XRP and then transfer the XRP to a particular jurisdiction and then convert back to local fiat currency. In the case of Iremit, that recipient jurisdiction is the Philippines. Iremit, through its exchanges, automatically converts the transfer in local currency, i.e. the Philippine peso, in real time, therefore eliminating any speculative aspect of its use. On-demand liquidity has many benefits for Iremit and its remittance partners. For example, on-demand liquidity settles cross-border transactions nearly instantaneously by recording those transactions on the XRP ledger. It can do so during times when traditional banks are closed, like evenings, holidays, and weekends. On-demand liquidity is also highly secure, providing assurance to On-demand liquidity is highly secure, providing assurance to entities like Iremit and its users when sending currency across national borders. On-demand liquidity also makes it very efficient to navigate between traditional fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies. The SEC's contention that XRP is an investment subject to the Securities Act is not accurate in light of U.S. Supreme Court precedent that defines the term. The way in which entities like Iremit use XRP on a daily basis undermines the SEC's theory of the case. Is that not some powerful stuff? And they're right on the facts. They're purely right on the facts. And you'll see as we go through this, because they start to talk more about, what constitutes a contract. And it doesn't, technically the way it's worded, it doesn't have to be a contract per se. Like it could be, because they use the word or, so it could be a scheme, which you might think kind of weakens Ripple's argument. Maybe technically it does, at least to some degree, or at least the SEC is going to argue that. But even if you look at the scheme, you'll see as we go through this, it's you're still not going to satisfy the Howie test. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, though. Let's get a little bit further. So now we're in the section titled Argument. So I'll start right here now, towards the bottom of page 3 here. Defendant's motion for summary judgment should be granted, contrary to the SEC's position. XRP cannot constitute an investment contract within the meaning of the Securities Act of 1933, according to binding Supreme Court and Second Circuit precedent. This definitional problem, standing alone, should end this court's inquiry. So pause. Again, this is Ripple's first and primary argument. There's no contract, so the judge should rule in favor of Ripple as a matter of law. Just the fact right there that there's a definitional problem, and it's not some little consequential thing. Like, words mean things, and in law, that's like it's important in life, but it's just in a general sense. But in law, it's important times 1,000. Because people need to be able to live by legal standards. So what has been determined by courts, what precedent is, which means what the actual rule of law is, indicates that without there being, some sort of investment contract here, even if you go with the or scheme thing, this whole thing falls apart. Just as a matter of law, it falls apart. Now I'll move down to page 4. I'm going to jump in right about here. Okay, in 1946, the United States Supreme Court defined an investment contract as a contract, transaction, or scheme whereby a person invests his money in a common enterprise and is led to expect profits solely from the efforts of the promoter or a third party. Where courts have used the so-called Howie test to evaluate whether an investment contract exists, 3 factors are considered. Whether there has been, number 1, an investment of money, number 2, in a common enterprise, and 3, with the expectation of profit from the essential efforts of another. So I got to pause there and address this. Note that Kim Jong-Gensler, he also argues that Howie is a 3-part test, and that's what Iremit just argued here, that the Howie test is a 3-part test, not a 4-part test. So yes, Kim Jong-Gensler also argues Howie is a 3-part test rather than 4, but he throws out common enterprise, and Iremit does not. Do you see what's happening here? Gary Gensler, when he does what he calls the 3-factor Howie test, he includes an investment of money with the expectation of profits on the efforts of others. That's how he characterizes it. Now, Iremit, they include all of those things, but they condensed 2 of them into 1. The two that they condensed into one, so it would be the expectation of profit. That's one of them. And then they also threw into that prong the efforts of others. So they condensed those two because they're strikingly similar, which is much more reasonable than what Gary Gensler did. Gary Gensler, he said it's a 3-factor test. He said it's an investment of money. Then he threw out common enterprise entirely, which Iremit did not do. They're citing as a prong on its own common enterprise. And then Gary just says expectation of profit, efforts of others. So that's it. So even though Iremit cites that it's a three-factor test, 3-prong test, they include all 4 prongs. They just condensed 2 of them into one. Whereas Gary Gensler threw out one of them. See the difference there? And the reason he's throwing that out is because, well, first of all, he's a terrible human. But second of all, he's like unilaterally, not that he'll necessarily get away with this, but if you throw out common enterprise, how easy is it to pass the Howie test? A lot easier, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that XRP would pass the Howie test, meaning it would be a security, but it would be a lot easier. Because if you don't have to prove that there's a common enterprise, my gosh. Because that's one thing that obviously, without doing any additional analysis, if you're looking at Howie, is there a common enterprise? One central entity that makes all of this possible? The answer is clearly no. If Ripple goes away, the XRP ledger continues to exist. And developers doing other stuff, they'll keep going on. So it's inconvenient for Gary that the law is the law and that common enterprise is part of this. So I had to address that because otherwise I know some of you have been wondering, wait a minute, 3-factor test? That doesn't sound right. Well, that's why. Just so you know. So there are some entities that say it's 3 instead of 4, but they're acting in good faith, whereas Gary Gensler's literally throwing out an entire prong rather than convincing 2 prongs into one, which is a very different thing. So anyway, moving on. This section is called Howie's third factor. The third prong of the Howie test is satisfied where investors have been led to expect profits solely from the efforts of the promoter. Even assuming that the SEC could establish the first 2 Howie factors, that there has been an investment of money into a common enterprise, it cannot establish the third. As Iremit's usage of XRP reveals, XRP, number 1, is not used with any expectation of profit, and number 2, is not used because of reliance upon Ripple's purported efforts to enhance XRP's value. Next, there's a section, no expectation of profit. So we'll be going from right about there. To meet Howie's third factor, the investment must come with a reasonable expectation of profits that can take the form of capital appreciation resulting from the development of the initial investment. Iremit does not use XRP because of any expectation of profit. Rather, Iremit is a customer of Ripple's on-demand liquidity product, which uses XRP because of on-demand liquidity's substantively advantageous features to facilitate cross-border payments. Let me take a sip of water. Excuse me, folks. Let me read that sentence again. Where the heck was I now? Oh, here we go. Okay. Iremit does not use XRP because of any expectation of profit. Rather, Iremit is a customer of Ripple's on-demand liquidity product, which uses XRP because of on-demand liquidity's substantively advantageous features to facilitate cross-border payments, speed, ease, and reliability. First, on-demand liquidity has the ability to transfer funds almost instantaneously. Traditional financial institutions, i.e. commercial banks, can take 3 to 5 days to settle international fund transfers and are often unavailable on weekends, evenings, and holidays. Even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum can take 10 or 15 minutes to record a transaction. But XRP running on the XRP ledger can support more than 1,500 transactions per second with confirmation speeds under 5 seconds. Simply put, on-demand liquidity is exponentially faster for customers. So let's pause a note here. It's like Iremit is giving the judge a crash course on XRP utility. And think about this too. A lot of the stuff that they're saying, these things that like the Ripple haters out there and the XRP haters, they'll say, when these things, like 1,500 transactions per second, instant settlement, all this stuff. They'll just be like, that's just Ripple talking points. They always say that stuff. That's just a company's talking points. The company's talking points. Yeah, well, here's a customer saying the same damn thing because it's true. They're not just talking points. The damn thing's useful, you freaking idiots. Like, Bitcoin maxi trolls, the bane of my freaking existence. Oh my God. the Max Kaiser times. I hate maximalism. It's just so damn toxic. But here you have this is a real world example articulating why they're doing what they're doing. This isn't some sort of fantasy land made up thing with a crappy white paper. This is a real thing that's in XRP used in enterprise grade software today. As long as we continue to see XRP get used for at least one purpose, and there's more than one purpose, I think it's here to stay. And that's why it was so, to me, exciting to read this, because you don't get to hear this type of argument from a Ripple customer every day. You don't. You hear, we've heard positive things over the years, but we're getting more into the nuts and bolts here. You'll see, like, they're even talking about, they even answer the question as to whether Ripple, did or did not pay them. And I let the cat out of the bag earlier. The answer is no, but still, let's go forward. I'll let them say it in their own words along with a bunch of other stuff. There's still more to cover here. Anyway, their argument continues. We're right about here now. Second, ODL is incredibly easy to use. While traditional financial institutions would require customers to worry about cumbersome currency exchanges, often charging fees with each conversion from one fiat currency to another, ODL permits Iremit's partners to promptly transfer value across borders with ease by converting fiat currencies into XRP. Third, and finally, ODL is secure and reliable, providing assurance to both senders and recipients of funds. As a remittance company, Iremit relies on this security. Indeed, the company's goodwill is largely based upon the trust of its users. Ripple's ODL product provides a high degree of customer confidence. An expectation of profit is not among the reasons that Iremit uses ODL and XRP. Iremit is generally aware that XRP's value may fluctuate in a given day, week, or month, but its utility is purely as a means of value exchange for the reasons outlined above, not because of some expectation that its inherent worth will be higher at some point in the or at some future date. The SEC's contention that XRP purchasers are sophisticated individuals or entities hoping to profit from XRP price movements is simply not an accurate reflection of why an entity like Iremit and its end users use ODL and XRP. Bam! That's a bitch smack right there, as it's welded a bitch smack to the SEC. Little freaking asshats hanging out their stupid little asshattery, saying dumb crap that ain't true. Let me scroll down to the next page. Now we're at the bottom of... is that right? I didn't skip something, did I? Hold on, let me just double check here. Yeah, we good here? Yep, okay. Yeah, so I do need to go to page 7. Just want to double check that. Thanks for hanging with me, folks. I'm sorry for the dead air time there. Here we go. All right, Section 2. The SEC dramatically minimizes and underestimates the importance of on-demand liquidity. Oh, check this out. I love this. Oh, we're getting to, like, this is probably, I don't know, it's hard to pick a favorite, but maybe the end part here, which I'm covering, this might be my favorite. Check this out. The SEC's lawsuit paints on-demand liquidity as essentially a distraction and not a key aspect of the way in which XRP is used. In the SEC's telling, XRP is principally bought and sold as an investment vehicle. Customers of ODL do not seem to matter to the SEC. I hate that. That's because the SEC is not acting in accordance in good faith to the law. That's why they're hypocrites. They're just arguing whatever the hell they have to argue. Of course they don't care about Iremit actually getting utility out of this thing, which is part of what destroys the SEC's BS arguments. Anyway, Iremit continues. We're right here now. To support its narrative, the SEC alleges that the use of XRP as a universal digital asset with the purpose of transferring money simply never materialized. Think about this. Here's Iremit, been using on-demand liquidity for 3 years, just expanded the usage of on-demand liquidity, yet you have the SEC with the audacity to claim that this use case that Ripple is alleging to have created never materialized. It's just a fantasy. And here's their customer saying, oh, no, you dumb messed up, son. Yeah, they're using it. These freaking people, and they think they can get away. I'm so happy that they filed this. I don't know if this is going to prove by the judge or not, the Amicus curiae. I sure as hell hope it does, but either way, the judge is seeing this at a minimum. So there it is. And so anyway, so they just left off where they were proposing that this use case never materialized. Amended complaint It says in the minute complaint. That's what they're saying. Okay. So it further contends that since its launch, ODL has gained very little traction and that its use was not organic or market-driven, but rather subsidized by Ripple. The SEC even goes as far as to say that Ripple essentially pays entities to use ODL. To encourage adoption of ODL, Ripple paid XRP to both the money transmitting businesses and certain market makers that supported the product for their efforts. That's a quote from the SEC. Now, the SEC's insinuation is that ODL is irrelevant to the true nature of XRP as an investment. If anything, the SEC asserts that Ripple's ODL product is a red herring meant to distract regulators, even though it has little to no actual usage. None of this is remotely accurate. As explained above, Iremit is a significant customer of ODL within one of the world's largest national markets for cryptocurrency. Not only did XRP's popularity as a universal digital currency materialize, but it has done so spectacularly well. As defendants point out in their motion, ODL has seen tremendous growth since its launch in 2018, with more than $10 billion in ODL payments made to date. Put differently, that means over $10 billion in XRP has been exchanged across borders. Iremit has been an active user of ODL since 2019. ODL is useful for Iremit because XRP and the XRP ledger lower the cost of real-time payments and allow greater access, customer access, to currency markets with a high level of speed and security. On an annual basis, Iremit accommodates the utilization of XRP to process and pay out remittance transactions equivalent to hundreds of millions of US dollars. Now, contrary to the SEC's insinuation in its lawsuit and summary judgment motion, Ripple does not pay Iremit to use ODL or XRP. Iremit uses ODL and XRP voluntarily because they benefit Iremit's remittance partners. Simply put, the SEC's allegations misunderstand the extent and function of on-demand liquidity's usage, thereby also misunderstanding the purpose of XRP. Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, Iremit respectfully urges the court to grant defendants' motion for summary judgment. And there we go. Hell yeah. Actual utility, not getting paid to use it, choosing voluntarily to use it as a customer of Ripple because it solves a real-world problem and it can't be solved in any other way, as I've been saying for years on end here. Iremit obviously gets it. That's why they've been doing this since 2019 and expanding the adoption. If this doesn't instill your confidence in the long-term viability of XRP, I don't know what the hell will. And it's not like it's a guarantee. I understand there's still risk investing in anything, and maybe XRP goes to zero, but I sure as hell don't see it. I think it's going to be worth way more. And I think that this shreds the SEC's arguments very clearly. I don't know for sure if the judge is going to allow this, and I said, I articulated why, but hopefully the answer is yes. Either way, holy wow. Is this not something? So you let me know what you think. I'm at the end of the video here. I know this is a pretty long one, so thanks to all of you who stuck around to the end, and I hope you found it to be worth it. I sure as hell did reading this thing before recording this video because, my gosh, you don't typically get this kind of insight into a Ripple on-demand liquidity customer's thinking, but here it is. It clear as day, in writing. So I'll wrap up, but let me know what you think. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.